In this episode, we're going to be speaking with one of our good friends, the incomparable Jim Marrs, and finding out what he's uncovered about these potentially world-changing events. Jim Marrs is an award-winning journalist and author. He is the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Crossfire: The Plot That Killed Kennedy, which was the basis of the Oliver Stone film, JFK. His in-depth overview of the UFO phenomena, Alien Agenda, is the best-selling nonfiction book on the UFOs in the world and has been translated into several foreign languages. He is a frequent guest on several nationwide radio shows and programs, as well as TV. His webpage is jimmarrs.com, so please welcome Jim Marrs. Always an honor and a privilege, and this show has changed to the video format, and I really love it because I can wave at you and say hi, and it really feels like I'm getting to spend some quality one-on-one time with you. So I love that. So thank you. Welcome back.
I can make faces at you.
That's right. It's like, don't get me started.
Okay. All right.
Because I'm infamous for doing that. Well, ask any of my viewers. So there's a number of different things I want to talk to you about, something about the SpaceX program, about the WikiLeaks stuff. Toward the end, I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming election, because you're Mr. Conspiracy Theory, and there's conspiracies everywhere, but I want to save that to the second half.
But this time it's not a theory.
Well, it depends. If you're a Clinton supporter, it is.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, let's just start up here. I wanted to do this. I want to take you back. Okay. I want to take you back to 1993 up through 2001 when Bill Clinton was president. Okay. Now you're alive, you're married, but you probably don't really remember. So let me run this through for you here. You're gonna love it. When Bill Clinton was president, he turned over the whole health care program to Hillary. Mm-hmm. And Hillary spent about $13 million of taxpayers' money coming up with her health care plan, and then she couldn't even get the Democrats in Congress to vote for it. It was so bad. Okay? And then, let's see, he's continued to let her stuff, so he gave her the authority to select a female attorney general. All right? So let's see, what did she do?
So was that Loretta Lynch?
Zoe Baird, Kimba Wood, okay, both were forced to withdraw their names. And then she chose Janet Reno. Janet Reno, who's the one who authorized the murder of the Branch Davidians in Waco.
Waco.
Okay, oh boy, that was a real good one there. She showed how much care she had for women and children. And then Bill allowed Hillary to make recommendations for the head of the Civil Rights Commission, and she nominated Lonnie Guinier. But when it led, when a little bit of probing led to her radical leftist views, she was tossed out. Finally, he allowed Hillary to make some recommendations, and she chose former law partners Webster Hubbell, Vince Foster, and William Kennedy for the Treasury Department. And boy, that was some really good selections, because Hubbell went to prison. And Vince Foster supposedly committed suicide, except there's huge questions about that. Yeah. And then Thompson and Kennedy was forced to resign. And it shows how competent she is. Then, of course, we had Travelgate, all right, where the White House Travel Office refused to comply when she wanted to award unfettered travel contracts to Clinton friends, okay? And so she had the FBI track them, and then had them all fired, ruined their jobs and their reputations because they were trying to do an honest job. One employee, Billy Dale, was charged with a crime, and then a jury acquitted him of any crime in less than 2 hours. All right, still not convinced of her ineptness. Bill allowed her to recommend a close Clinton friend, Craig Livingston, for the position of Director of White House Security. When he was investigated, it was found that Livingston had improper access to about 900 FBI files of Clinton enemies, okay? And that turned into Filegate and the accusation of widespread drug use in the White House. And then, of course, as that went on, Filegate, the drug use, the Clintons claimed they never even knew Livingston, you know? I could go on and on, but
but that seems to be their legacy. You know, there's one gate after another gate, then Whitewater. I mean, it's just like bam, 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 bam. And all the dead people. We're not even talking all the dead people.
I ain't talking about the dead people. And hey, we've gone to war over in the Middle East because of failed governments, right? Well, if that wasn't a failed government, I don't know what was, all right? And I just can't believe that people are so stupid they'll vote against their own self-interest. I've always kind of been under the impression that the American left, political left, is basically leftovers from the hippies and the peaceniks, and they're anti-war, right? Well, who wants to go to war with Russia? Hillary. Who doesn't want to go to war with Russia?
Everybody else.
Everybody else. It's like, and then they hate Wall Street. Oh, they hate Wall Street. The 1%ers. Let's, you know, Occupy movement. Let's march. And yet, who's for Wall Street? Hillary. You know, who says he'll try to rein them in, or he's big enough to play with the big boys, and he doesn't have to take any guff from them? That's Trump. And so, but who do they want to vote for? They want to vote for Hillary. I mean, I'm sorry. To me, that's the clinical definition of insanity.
Well, you know, since we're talking election, I was hoping to save it for the second part because we're supposed to be talking about space stuff. But since we're here, you know, there is so much. There are all the emails. There's all of the talk about voter fraud. You know, that's been hitting the news in the last couple of days, where, you know, 1,800 people so far have been identified that have been dead for 10 years that are voting again. And actually, Trump...
Who are they voting for?
Well, this was an interesting thing. I caught this on the news yesterday. Trump was talking about it. They were traditionally Republicans, and then they changed their affiliation to Democrats in this recent cycle.
So they came back to life and changed parties.
That's right.
Whoa, man, we got to go start a new zombie movie. That sounds like a great plot. Well, here's the one that gets me, because my wife, we got sent these cards that said, if you're over 65, fill this out and we'll send you a ballot. And, you know, you can have an absentee ballot. My wife thought that sounded like a good idea. So she filled them out for both of us and sent them in. It's just a postcard, okay? You don't have to open anything. It's just there. You got your name, your address, everything else, okay? So then the other day I'm reading that some jerk in the post office twittered that, hey, I work at the post office and I've been throwing all the Trump cards away. As if what? That's not a federal offense? Isn't it a federal offense to tamper with the mail?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you know, but that doesn't stop the Hillary supporters. You know, since when is laws and regulations and thoughtful manner, when is that ever factored in? Like I'm just saying, you know, you think that they'd be for the candidate who's for peace, the candidate who would actually buck Wall Street, not take all their money and $500,000 of speech and all like that. You think that they go for the guy who's not a member of the Bilderbergers or the Council on Foreign Relations and these secret societies of wealthy people that are trying to run the world. You think that they wouldn't want that candidate, but no, that's what they want. Are they just clinically insane or what?
Well, I would love your thoughts, you know, because it seems like Hillary and her people are running around talking about some of the things that Trump says, like the election fraud and stuff like that, that they're all conspiracy theories, you know, that, you know, it's this group of wackos that are making this stuff up and running around telling people. But it seems like as more stuff is released or as people investigate it, they're finding over and over that what they're saying is actually true, but then they suppress it so it doesn't really hit mainstream media.
Now you hit the nail on the head. I don't care how brilliant you are. You could have an IQ of 250, but if you're operating on incomplete or erroneous information, you can never make a reasonable decision on anything. And that's the problem. The globalists, the people behind Hillary, they own and control the media. And that's why the media directs the agenda and directs where the attention goes. For example, they're hammering Trump because 30 years ago he said something inappropriate, used an inappropriate word in a bus being taped when he didn't know it with a bunch of guys. Boy, is there any red-blooded American male who couldn't be caught doing that same thing, okay? And what did he actually say anyway? What he actually said was, they were talking about, isn't it great to be rich and famous? And he says, oh yeah, you get to kiss all the women and maybe even grab their pussycat, except he left out the cat. But he didn't say he did it. He was commenting on what it's like to be rich and famous, and he ought to know. All right, do we have anybody over the years that has done, he was in charge of all those pageants, right? All those beauty pageants. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, he's in charge of the pageant. Would he be walking through the dressing room? Probably. Okay. Is there anybody who said he touched them inappropriately? Was anybody filed a sexual harassment suit? No. So they're going back to innuendos and claims 20, 30 years old. And yet, where's the comments on Bill Clinton's bloody rape of at least 3 women who are now still living and said he did it? Okay, we don't talk about that. And they said Hillary knew all about it and threatened them if they tried to tell anybody. Now, excuse me, using coarse language, that's not great, but that's not the word. That doesn't compare to rape. Talking about, she's got a good body, she's got good legs. God, any red-blooded American male does that. That's not the same as rape. And yet they're trying to hammer Trump as if he's some kind of sexual predator, and they just seem to give the Clintons a pass. Well,
and Trump has his issues, you know.
Yeah. No,
but it seems like every day more and more comes out about the double dealing, and the double dipping and the secret agenda, that comes out of the Clinton camp. For example, how they, in my opinion, stole the election from Bernie, the primary from Bernie.
They did, and it's been pretty much admitted now by some of the campaign insiders. They admit that, yeah, we took it from him. Okay. Now, is that the kind of person we want in power? I don't think so.
But that's not what we're, that's not America. That's not what we bought in for. And so to elect somebody that's going to be their politics is just wrong. Flat out wrong.
Absolutely. Just absolutely. In fact, in Florida the other day in a speech, Trump pretty well nailed it. He said, my campaign represents an existential threat to the establishment. And that's what people need to understand. That's why it seems like that everybody's coming out of the woodwork to attack Trump, even Republicans, even the rhinos. Okay? Now, why is that? Because they're globalists. They're secret New World Order guys, and they're all operating for the money interest in this planet. And Donald Trump must represent a real existential threat to them. All right, and if we're going to go on and declare ourselves living in a free democratic country, we better start changing course, because after 4 more years or 8 more years of Hillary Clinton, you will not be able to recognize the United States of America.
I have a question for you, and you're the perfect person to ask. They're the globalists, Bilderbergs, Trilateral, all of that. But where does Trump fit into this? I mean, he's a rich guy. Do you really feel like he's outside of that control, or do you think that there's some other group that is controlling him?
I have kind of changed my opinion, okay? When he first entered the race and was making all the hoorah and all the Tea Party was gathering around him, I thought he was a straw man, okay? The globalists put him in there, okay? To give everybody, number one, now they identify who all the constitutionalists are. Number two, they give him a chance to rally around, and then they get soundly defeated, and he acts like a boor and an idiot, and they all fall apart. Okay, but I think right now, for several reasons, I think Donald Trump has had an epiphany. I think he's Paul on the road to Damascus. In fact, he said in one of his speeches that I'm a New Yorker, always been a New Yorker, thought like a New Yorker, you know. He said, but since I've started this campaign and I'm traveling across the country, I realize there's a whole America out here full of Americans who have their own problems and their own issues. And he said, I'm beginning to see that there's more to it than what I thought. And I think he's had a little change of heart. And I think he realized, okay, yes, has he of a wealthy family? Yes. Has he got millions? Yes. Okay, does he play big boys? Yes. But that doesn't mean he's one of them. And I would simply point to John F. Kennedy. All right, he was the liberal, Eastern, well-moneyed Eastern elite, right? And yet, during his time as president, he began to rethink things and think maybe we don't need to have this Cold War, and maybe we don't need to have the Federal Reserve running everything, and maybe the corporations have gotten a little hand. So we had the 1050 Tax Act of 1962. We had his brother prosecuting the mafia as never before or since. And we had all this good stuff that was happening for the good for the American people. Okay, so yes, I think Donald Trump can be, well, he has to be. Nobody else has that kind of money to go and make a run at him, okay? The fact that they're all coming out and they're all piling on him and the news media totally controlled is freaking out and pulling all stops. They're saying anything they can kind of find. They go find somebody from 30 years ago that says, I think you might have touched me, you know, and build that into some kind of real case, you know, and they're pulling out all the stops because they're scared to death of him. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you what my fondest hope is this election, that we're going to hear from all of the, what used to be known as the silent majority, okay? The honest, honorable, I don't care what religion or what race or whatever, the honest, tax-paying American citizens who have to put up with this greed and this corruption that we've had ever since the coup of 1963. And they're going to get out and these are the people who, they don't go to rallies and they don't go to political party meetings and they don't hold up signs. They don't march in the streets. They are not the squeaky wheel. They're just the grinding wheels of America's progress. They're the ones doing the work and paying the taxes. And my fondest hope is on election day, they'll go down there to the ballots. They'll look at Hillary Clinton and just go, I can't do it. Just can't do it. And they all vote for Trump. And all of a sudden, he comes in on a landslide. Then we're going to see the fireworks because it's going to get real interesting. Because then they're really going to pull out all the stops, or they may start losing their power and control over the American people.
Well, and I think it's interesting, excuse me, that, you know, there are the Trump rallies that are packed. I mean, I've gone to concerts that didn't have so many people in them, you know, and then you see what's going on in the polls, which they don't seem like they equate. You know, do you think the polls are rigged too?
The polls are definitely rigged. It's not probable, they are. Okay, for example, all you have to do is go look at some of the differences between the polls. Okay, you get CNN and Hillary's ahead by 80%, you know, and then you do a reader poll that somebody started on CNN and it shows that Trump is ahead 88%. You know, it's a big difference between what the bought and controlled professional pollsters are telling everybody and the reality, okay? And I'll tell you, Dr. Rita, here's the game plan. This is why you're seeing all this. They are trying to instill in us the idea that it's going to be a very close race, okay? And if we'll ever accept the idea it's going to be a close race, then through voter fraud, computer voting, they can fudge a few percent here and there, and they can push Hillary over the top and say, well, it was real close, but Hillary won by 3%. You know, no, that's what the plan is, and it's not that way. I guarantee you. But I see a repeat of 2008. In 2008, the vast majority of the country voted against Obama. Okay, and seriously, almost every county, every state. The places where he won was in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, okay, and these big cities where you have these huge welfare populations, and they were carting them, busing them, trucking them, you know, bicycling them.
Here's a cell phone. for your troubles.
Here's your Obama phone, okay? and it pushed it over. It pushed it over, which means he has never represented the vast majority of people in this country, and it's going to be the same way this way unless everybody gets out and votes.
So, what do you think? It scares the crap out of me. I mean, like I said before, Trump definitely has his issues, but it scares me even more to have Hillary be in charge. So if she gets control, what do you think will happen? Do you think she's just going to sell us out, lock, stock, and barrel?
Well, there are already people down here in Texas that are preparing bumper stickers that said, Hillary's in, Texas is out.
Hey, and I live in Texas. Woo-hoo.
That's right. We're have Texas. We're just going to say, all right, to hell with you. We put up with this as long as we can. And we can do that legally, technically. Of course, so could the Southern Confederacy. You see how that turned out. But, no, I'm telling you, I know people who are on the verge of revolution if they don't see something change going on, because right now the majority of people in this country, there's more people in this country receiving direct livelihood from the government than are paying into it. Now, how long can that go on?
Well, it can't. That's why we're $22 trillion in debt.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why we're fighting wars all over the country, just to keep young men off the street and give the government control over them, and to keep the war machine running, because that's the only thing that's still making money, and our infrastructure's falling apart. It's really incredible. People just aren't noticing because we've got bread and circuses, just like the Romans, except today, of course, it's television and sports and welfare. And I'm not against welfare, but welfare can be, and I think you'll agree with me, it could be streamlined, drastic.
Oh yeah, that's a whole show by itself. But you were talking about.
Wait, it's this simple on welfare. It's this simple. We need to quit paying people to be on welfare, and that's what we're doing. We're doing we're giving them vouchers, food vouchers, etc., etc. What we need to do is, if you're truly poor, you're truly hungry, go down to the government office. They'll give you a block of cheese. They'll give you some peanut butter. They'll give you bread, okay, and you can get along. Now, that'll take care of people who are truly in need. Everybody else, get a job or start doing something.
Although, the whole job market sucks because all of the jobs are not here anymore. And so
Mexico and Taiwan. Thank you, Clintons. Thank you, New World Order. And that's exactly what Donald Trump's been talking about, isn't it? About bringing companies back to the United States, which will then open up new job opportunities, and everybody just do fine. What we need to do, believe it or not, we need to take a lesson from Adolf Hitler.
Wait a minute, Mr. Fourth Reich person? You're going to take a word from Adolf Hitler?
But here's the deal. When Hitler took power in Germany in 1933, they were in the depths of the Depression just like we were, okay? And the big bankers put Hitler in power in Germany because that was the only country they thought that could stop the spread of communism out of Russia, okay? So Hitler gets in. Now, they expected him to turn around and borrow tons of money from the international bankers to support his regime and to support Germany and da-da-da. He didn't do it, okay? He didn't go to those bankers. He didn't borrow that money. He printed his own money, the Reichmarks, okay? And with that money, he then paid people to get back to work, build the Autobahn, build public buildings. Yes, get the defense industry going again. And by 1936, in the Berlin Olympics, Germany was the powerhouse of the world economically. All the Germans were happy, fat, sassy, had jobs, had spending money. Everybody was doing great, okay? That's why they had to go to war with him, because he was doing too good and he was proving what could happen if you're not in debt to the international bankers.
Well, someone made a comment to me the other day about why we have to police the entire world and why, this whole military presence needs to be there. And their comment was that we do that because we have to protect U.S. interests around the world. So, you know, these companies go to China or Mexico, so now we have to go and protect those interests. It's not about keeping peace, it's about making sure that our businesses are being protected in these other countries.
And what's Iraq or Afghanistan ever had to do with anything, okay? Before we invaded Iraq, we were only getting 14% of our imported petroleum from Iraq, okay? 14%. And then now we're not even getting that because they've been torn the country apart. We've, you know, all the oil wells are on fire, and they're still fighting over there. Afghanistan, the Mongols couldn't take Afghanistan. The British Empire.
But who'd want it?
Huh?
Who'd want it? It's just dirt.
Exactly. Well, they wanted it because of two reasons. The poppy fields. The Taliban, I don't have much good to say about them, but they were religious fanatics. And according to mainstream media, before we invaded Afghanistan, they had destroyed 96% of the poppy crops. That's the heroin trade of the world. Huge money involved. And the bankers, they're the ones that handle that money. And they wanted that back in production. And so we invaded Afghanistan. A year after we invaded, they're having a bumper crop of crappies. In fact, I was recently talking to a young man that was a sniper in the Army, and they set him up in on a little valley thing there with a little trail coming down there through there, and he was given orders, shoot anybody coming down that trail. He said, except the drug carriers. You leave them alone. There you go, folks. It's all about drugs, and it's about the gas pipeline that they wanted to put through to shorten the pipeline route from the Caucasus oil fields to the Middle East and then into Europe.
You know, and it's not anything about the people. I mean, that's the part. You know, they put it out, it's about the people, but it's not.
Yeah, ain't got a damn thing to do with us. Okay, it's just big corporations. And like you said, the bigger the corporation, the faster they leave America. This is just insane. And yet the people are going to vote for Hillary. They want 8 more years of the same. And I don't think we can withstand 8 years. No.
We can't, because there's so many people that have jobs, and we need to kind of wrap up and move on to something else, but there are so many people that had good paying jobs, and now they're working at Home Depot, if they're lucky, and making $12 an hour, or whatever.
Good thing I'm literate and can actually write a comprehensible sentence, or I'd probably be a Walmart greeter. You know?
Well, it's not too late.
See, I've always got a fallback profession. Welcome to Walmart.
You could be Santa. Come on, with that beard.
Well, I've done that for years anyway.
Well, see, you have experience.
That's right. Well, thank you. I've got another profession I can fall back on. Except if they keep going, nobody's going to have any money to buy anything for Christmas.
True that.
Let's move on. Let's move on to space.
That's Jim Marrs. His webpage is jimmarrs.com. And thank you for tuning into this portion of our interview with Jim. If you're enjoying today's program, please click on the button below and subscribe to our channel. If you want to hear this interview in its entirety, become a Just Energy Radio insider at justenergyradio.com and access full shows commercial-free and gain access to our over 9 years of show archives. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So until next time, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy. Be blessed.